fucking Jesus out of them until they give you the price you want.
The worst part is too.
Go
Like,
away, scary man.
I don't even think they had put it on display yet. They had literally
No, they
just got
didn't.
it, and I immediately was like, mine.
Gimme.
All I have, like the only image I have in my head right now is your video game Spidey sense tingled. You Superman pulled your shirt aside like, I am flea market man. And you just hop over there and you'd be like, sir, it is in your best interest to part ways with this game. You don't want no problems around here. That is the image I have of you in my head now.
It was a bit more deranged and a bit more like spastic, but yeah. Excuse me.
I would say take Superman, but instead make him the Joker.
No, picture more like
make him
Wally
scary.
West. Like just being more. That's more what it was.
Hey guys, I'm Bill, a one-time Instagram blogger and now a podcaster.
And I'm Alex, the chaotic neutral,
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast
a brother-sister duo,
that talks about gaming.
and also anime.
And don't forget the collecting, sometimes.
Ah, forget it. We're just a nostalgia podcast at this point.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us as we discuss the games that shaped us.
So, before I get into my normal spiel, we actually have a guest this time. On today's episode, we have James from Games with John and James. How you doing, James?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
And like I normally say every episode, how you guys been?
Surviving. Work is endless travels, nonstop. But thankfully, we got the Nintendo Switch. I'm finally getting to sink my teeth into Bravely Default 2, and it
nice.
has been awesome.
Nice.
Nice.
Me and Alex have been still doing the golf ball grind every week. So,
Yes.
Oh, no.
Very much so.
like, this is the first full week in like a couple weeks because like we had like a Labor Day last weekend, so it's just completely just screws up everybody's work weeks, and like you just like it makes this week so much longer than it actually is.
Oof. You know what they say? 4-day work weeks. Let's go.
Ugh.
If only.
If only. I mean, they talk about like having our main office has talked about doing a 4-day work week, but it will just never happen at our place. We need to work 5 days, sometimes 6 days a week. So
Hell, some people
It's
there work
crazy.
7 days a week.
yeah, some people are there 7 days a week, and I don't know how they do it. I would lose my mind.
Holy cow, that is a lot of work. We need to they heard it here first on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. Now they heard it first. 4-day work week now.
Let's go. Oh, I wish, but then I think about it, I'm like, whenever we do have a 4-day work week, I never have enough time for anything, and I'm just like, as much as I would love to do this, I just don't think I could. I just wouldn't be able to get all my work done. Which
I
is
think
so
that's what-
sad.
I think that's what holds it back, honestly.
Yeah. Oh,
Other than that, I'm also in the process of, I'm still switching all my stuff over from Massachusetts to Connecticut. So I'm like doing
yes.
the DMV stuff where I got to transfer my registration next. That's going to be a joy.
Have
Oof.
fun with that.
It's funny how like the RMV/DMV, there's just something about it where like you're in there for like 5 minutes and it just like sucks the life out of you. So by the time you go up, like you're already like dead inside. So when you take your photo, you just look terrible because you don't want to be there anymore.
Oh no. I will admit that is one thing I do not miss. One of the insane weird offshoot perks, because I'm in the Air Force.
Mhm.
We don't have to change registration or anything whatsoever as long as we're active duty. Like I have Texas stuff on my car, driver's license is Texas, doesn't have to change, and I'm just like, oh my god, what do I do?
Oh, I remember when I was first, because I moved to Connecticut before Bill did, and I just remember, like, it took me, like, 6 tries to get my car registered, because in Connecticut, you have to send your title over to, like, the registry, and every single time, I hate you, Chrysler Capital. Every single time they wouldn't send it. I literally had to call begging and crying on the phone for them to send it before they finally did. But I literally went to the DMV about 10 times. So if you have a Chrysler brand car and you're moving to Connecticut, good luck.
Oh no.
Good luck with that. Good luck getting your car title. Unless you own it, then you're good. But if you're still paying it back, good luck.
And then they can like send you away for just not having the right piece of mail, and it's like
yeah.
great.
It really just depends on how they're feeling that day, I feel like.
Yep.
Because I swear the person who, when I had to show my mail, they did not look at it at all. They just said, all right, that's 3. Let's go.
Ouch. So what you're saying is one day soon, someday down the road, we will have 2 future Texas residents on us who never have to worry about that again.
Oh, actually, Alex has a vendetta against Texas.
I'm sorry, but Texas has done me very dirty in the past. Everything bad happens when I go to Texas. I don't know why. I'm not meant to be there.
Okay. Close second, Florida.
I mean, I've been to Florida like twice, and they were both fine. But like, every time. So, I moved to Texas for a job. I got laid off from the job because of COVID. I go there for work, and then every time it's a crap show. It's terrible every single time that I go, because like every time I go, they're like, "Okay, we're ready for you," and then they show up, and you're like, "You're here? Why are you here?" And I'm just like, "You told me to come here," and it's miserable every time. So, and I've had to go a couple times at work now, and I'm like, please don't send me back there. I don't want to go back. It's bad. Texas doesn't like me.
That and just flying anywhere sucks now, because flying is a mess at the moment.
Oh my god, yeah. I remember coming back from Texas recently. My flight got delayed like 8 times, and we were supposed to leave at 2, and I left at 8 o'clock at night.
Oof.
Yeah. So, also Texas.
Common denominator.
Texas.
I will say Raleigh, North Carolina had like one of the most efficient airport like TSAs I've ever been through. Like it was one of the first times I ever got like the dog search, and like honestly that was so much more efficient than like the crap that you have to deal with in Boston.
Oof. I was recently in Colorado Springs for work. This was a few weeks back. I'm making my way to the airport, getting ready to come back on my return flight. There's no one at TSA. I'm literally the only person. Like, this is a small airport. So I'm like, oh, sweet, TSA pre-check, thanks military. So do my thing. Bing, hey, you've been randomly selected. And I look back and I look forward. And the guy, he's kind of chuckling because he knows what's going to happen. And I'm like, 1 of 1. That's a very random, let me tell you. It was nice though. He ended up asking me about so John and I both have shirts for the podcast. He ended up asking me about it and actually listens to the show now. So silver lining, TSA agent into fan.
Oh, that's fun.
Nice. That's so fun.
Yeah. Honestly, the worst part about recently though is I haven't had like any time to like play games lately.
If you had a chance to read the article that I wrote on Quit the Build, it's insane. I've started to schedule time for myself to game aside from like work trips, because outside of working and then going into the hotel and just gaming, like it's hard. So you got to schedule it.
It really is. Like,
yeah.
I feel like the only games I've played this year are like literally, other than like Final Fantasy 16, like the only games I've actually played this year are games that I have for like podcast commitments. Like I'm playing the Inuyasha game on PS2 right now for a podcast I'm recording this weekend, and it's funny how like I'm playing it, and because it's a commitment, I'm not having fun like I normally would.
That was in a uniquely not bad anime style video game series. Like the PS2 Inuyasha games, they weren't train wrecks, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, one was a fighter that was pretty solid, and the other was this turn-based RPG, which, I mean, it has a little too much random encounters, but I mean, other than that, it was okay. The writing's a little weak because you can tell Rumiko clearly didn't write it, but other than that, it was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Alex, have you played games, or have you been just trying to live?
Well, yeah, I have been super busy because I picked up dance again, and that's been like a 4-day-a-week commitment, which is good because I've been losing a lot of weight, which has been great because my goal has been to get into better shape. And dance is something I did for a while, and I'm getting back into it because now it's fun and it's not terrible anymore because there's nothing, no seriousness to it. But I have been playing Stardew Valley nonstop. I started a new game because, as we've talked about many times, I just chose all the worst decisions when playing it the first time around. Like, I chose a fishing farm and I suck at fishing. I chose like all the worst decisions you could make. So I was like, okay, round 2, I'm gonna choose my favorite activity, a mining farm, because I love mining. And I'm replaying the game at this point. And I do check the trash cans regularly for a tuna. Because I know I'm not gonna catch it in this game either.
So to fill James in, we had done a Stardew Valley episode a while back, and the running joke in the episode was Alex couldn't catch a tuna, and it prevented her from like completing like her town hall and like event center or whatever.
Oh no.
I needed one tuna and I couldn't, and I literally had an unfinished town hall for 3 years. Because that's how long it took me to find one.
And then she finally found it in the trash like a week later.
Yes, I did. It was a great day.
But I guess other than that, though, I guess we should probably transition into our topic for this episode.
Wait, what are you drinking, Bill?
It's only a Tuesday, so I'm drinking a Liquid Death water.
Oh.
So
that's not fun.
When we record on Thursdays, I'll have like a beverage of sorts, but it's a Tuesday, so it's kind of boring right now.
Lame.
The responsible Tuesday drink.
Yeah, that was also the first thing I saw in the fridge, so I just grabbed it.
So you grabbed it?
Yeah.
Well, I was irresponsible today. And I'm drinking a Down East cider. But I'm also drinking a water. I'm double drinking.
Look, stay hydrated while enjoying the cider. They go hand in hand.
Exactly. That was my plan.
This is
hydrate
like
or you dihydrate.
It's like me at the college party with freaking like the beer in one hand and the empty beer filled with water in the other hand, just walking around.
Bill, you should be proud of me. I resisted the urge to read off all the nutritional facts of the can.
Because that joke isn't funny anymore.
I can if you want me to.
No, let's move on. Move on from that.
No.
But yeah, so moving on to our topic for this episode. The running joke with our podcast for years is we've been the gaming and collecting podcast, but we never talk about collecting because
it's just an implication.
Well, we made the name, and then we didn't really think it through that far back in 2021. But because I want to actually focus on the collecting portion of our name, and the fact that I'm also a psychotic collector on the internet, I figured I wanted to start a little series of episodes that we could do throughout the year, where every now and then we'd bring on another collector and we'd kind of share like collecting stories and like kind of talk shop in a way. So I kindly asked James if he would, well, basically I owed James a collab because I've been on his show twice now. And I figured we both have been, we were shooting the shit about collecting a while back at one point after one of the recordings. And I figured like, we should really just make an episode out of this at some point. So I kindly asked James and he agreed. So I think we're going to go from here now and see how this goes. And if it works out, we'll do more of them in the future, hopefully.
Let's go.
So I figure because you're the guest, I'll let you start first. Like, how did you get into collecting?
So it was kind of weird, honestly. So back in the day, my dad, he's the first person that ever got me into video games, and it was more along the lines of I saw him playing the original Legend of Zelda on the regular Nintendo, and he didn't want my young little child hands potentially wrecking what was expensive for the time. So I had to wait like 2 to 3 months begging and begging and begging to play. And when he let me finally play, like, I was hooked. And that was hey, I'm gonna be a gamer. And it wasn't until so I've lived all over the world. My dad was in the military. When we moved to Italy for the first time, that was when the collecting kind of began. The base exchange, think of it like the military Walmart is the best way I can describe it. They had so they were switching gears. They were switching from regular Nintendo to Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and all of their Nintendo games, I'm talking titles from heavy hitters of the DuckTales to Little Samson and everything in between, was on sale for $1. And that's like my first, I've got my $20 of allowance that I've been saving up, go grab 20 games. And that's what like fully kickstarted this, as you said, madness when it comes to collecting.
Yeah, madness is definitely the proper term
Addiction?
for
No.
organized hoarding is what I like to call it.
Organized
It is definitely a way of describing this hobby, because this hobby. So I got into it around 2009. What year did you say you got into it around?
9. So Italy, the first time, it was 1993.
Before me and Alex existed. Nice.
We weren't even a thought. No.
I'm showing my age there.
Sorry.
Hashtag 80s kid.
Nice. Yeah, so we obviously, like, I'm 95, she's like 96. We didn't really get into gaming until like the late portion of the 90s. So
Yeah. Also,
Right
because
at-
we were very sheltered children growing up, so we had educational games for the most part.
the good
Hey.
old days.
I will die on this hill. Mario's Time Machine was legitimately an enjoyable game with the surf mini game.
That's
Just
the
the mini game specifically.
You would time surf, collect your stuff that you need to go back in time to stop Bowser from messing up the Mona Lisa or other things like that.
I love that premise.
Legitimately,
Bowser's
you're-
just fucking with the metal Mona Lisa.
It was great. Like, I obviously, as a little kid, I have no history knowledge, so I sucked at that part. But Mario surfing, 10 out of 10. I'm your guy.
Got it.
See, we had like gems like Tigger's Honey Hunt and
Putt.
Well, the Humongous Entertainment games are still good to this day. I don't care what anyone says, but
Yes, they are.
But yeah, we had like stuff like that, because our first console was like the PlayStation back in the day. I always remember, because we had the little tiny one, and then it later got upgraded to a PS2, and then the little PS1 got the screen attachment, so that just kind of became my my own personal console that I had in my room at the time.
Still have to this day.
I do. It's in my house now. That's fun, a fun thought.
Hmm.
You have leveled up to adult gaming.
Yep. Honestly, talking about collecting, like, that screen adapter for the PS1 has to be one of the coolest ideas a company has ever done that's never been officially done again.
It was so much fun because, like, when the PlayStation came out, you had your Nintendo 64 party system, you had a little bit of the Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, like, kind of holdover, but like having the ability to be like, okay, you guys are doing you guys are playing Mortal Kombat, or you're playing Conker's Bad Fur Day. You know what? I'm just gonna chill with you guys, but I have my own little personal TV and console. I'm cool.
Meanwhile, they're looking at you like, who's this guy in the background who's just playing the game by himself? I may have done this once.
Don't judge me in my Final Fantasy Tactics now.
See, that was me with FF8. I remember, like, at one point, like, someone walked by and they're like, why are you just running around in circles, like, then running away from every battle? And I'm just like, it's strategy. You wouldn't understand.
You don't get it.
It's the optimal way to play this game.
Hey, you learned from Final Fantasy V when you could get the Brave Blade or the Chicken Knife. The more you run away, the stronger the weapon is. That's my deep reference of the day.
In 8, you just don't want to fight battles because the enemies level with you.
Yeah. We've had this conversation. You know, I'm not a fan of 8, and I know you are. I think, and I will say this, I think 8 could have been in the top 3 if they had kind of fixed the draw system and the enemy leveling system, I think it could have been in the top 3.
It's still got a really bad kind of mess of a story, though, which kind of hurts it at the same time.
I'm trying to give it credit.
That's fair. Speaking of 8, I guess like this one I've told a few times in the past, but this is probably one of my favorite collecting kind of goofs in my entire history of collecting, was how I got Final Fantasy VIII as my first RPG.
Okay.
Basically, so 8 came out in 99. I was 4 at the time. And basically, I wanted Final Fantasy VII, but I was trying to be mature. So I wrote it out with the Roman numerals, but my child brain added an extra I. And our wonderful mother read it, what it was, saw it was Final Fantasy VIII, and got 8. And I wasn't really upset. I was more just kind of like, this doesn't look like the same game. But then I played it and I'm like, wow, it looks so much better, but it's confusing as fuck.
I'm happy you started young, you know?
Honestly, the fact that 8 was my first RPG is part of the reason why I have so much patience for overly complicated battle systems and RPGs.
You are not lying. Like, I keep saying, I've said it on the show and I say it with friends, like, we're in this insane JRPG renaissance, and now we're getting the chaos of this JRPG renaissance where everybody wants to do something completely different. So the battle systems are getting convoluted, the story is like layer flipping convoluted, and sometimes it's both. And now people are getting to see the struggles that we had to endure back when it went from Parasite Eve into Jade Cocoon into Beyond the Beyond into all of that nonsense, like Legend of Legaia inputting your fighting commands.
Oh yeah, the dial-a-combo system. That was a time.
We're back in that chaos. So as much as this is a great renaissance, I'm chuckling internally very evilly, like picture like Pinky and the Brain chuckle right now. And they get to really experience what we had to go through back in the day, because going from 7 into 8 and then into 9, and then, you know, put a little Final Fantasy Tactics in between. And for everybody who missed out on the Super Nintendo era, oh, by the way, here's 1 through 6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
now, Alex,
Yes.
I've never really asked you this personally. I always wondered, like, so your first real big gaming moment was the DS. Like, that was kind of your
Yes.
big like awakening to gaming. Like, what was like the moment for you that really kind of clicked with
It was
that?
Pokemon. It was
Was it-
Pokemon, Bill.
Was
Well,
it
it was
Pokemon?
Pokemon Black and White. That was the one that really got me into collecting the games, and then I went on to get like all of the Pokemon games for the DS. Because I was obsessed with them all and played them multiple times. But really, if it wasn't for the DS in it, the DS in itself too. I mean, I will say we talked about this recently, but Nintendogs was like the driving force of me getting a DS at first. But it finished with Pokemon being what I really wanted in the end. So, and then I got and Animal Crossing. Can't forget Animal Crossing too. But I discovered that on the DS and then have continued that discovery since then. Yeah. But the Pokemon games, I'd say, were a big factor. Pokemon and Animal Crossing, definitely.
I'm pretty sure Alex went on like a 4-year just Animal Crossing binge during the DS era.
Yes, I did. Once New Leaf came out, well, I had honestly, yeah, because I had Wild World and I would play that religiously, and then I had New Leaf and I'd play that religiously, and sadly, the only one I haven't really played as religious is the most recent one. Which I'm brave right.
New Horizons.
I just haven't played it as much as I played New Leaf and Wild World. Those
I was
two-
about to ask if in COVID you got to embrace Animal Crossing, you know, practically causing world peace.
I mean, it was definitely fun, and it was also the first time that I actually got to, because of like the just more of the capabilities that the Switch had with the online playing.
Mhm.
I got to use like all the features that I never could use when I was in middle school and high school when I had the DS, because I didn't have any other friends who played Animal Crossing. So, and I wasn't about to, at the time, I was very much told by my parent, don't talk to people on the internet that you don't know. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to find anyone to play this with. So I would just play Animal Crossing by myself and go, I wish I could visit someone else's town. And then I got to live those dreams when New Horizons came out. But I will say New Leaf is still my favorite.
So the thing about New Horizons that I find really amazing was like I was for years the Mr. like would play Animal Crossing for like a day, get bored, and move on really fast. New Horizons was the one that I actually legitimately put like, God, probably like hundreds of hours into. That was a wild time back in 2020.
It was funny, definitely, watching Bill play Animal Crossing, because, like, I tried to get him to play it for years, because I was like, oh, I have a brother. This is my ticket to someone visiting my town. And he was like, no, I don't want to play. I'd be like, God damn it, Bill. Play Animal Crossing. And then it finally happened, and then I regretted it, because he would just come and terrorize my town. So, he's banned. He's not allowed to visit anymore.
Oh no!
And I don't want to visit his town because it's a trash town.
Screw your town.
He literally just puts garbage everywhere in his town. Terrible.
Like, oh, this is a cool item. Just put it randomly in the middle of the road. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Forgets about it.
Hey, he believes in like the European openness of everything.
Yes.
The garbage dump openness of everything.
Oil barrel in neighbor's yard.
Is it island named Paris?
Nope.
I don't remember what I named it, honestly.
It was probably something. I think I named mine Tillyland after my cat. Because I didn't know what else to name it.
So, to jump back a little bit now, I guess like this is kind of where I wanted to go into some of like our probably most like wild stories. And I guess to like start it off, I wanted to talk about this one that I've mentioned previously in the past, but it's always one of my favorite like funny stories was how I got the GameCube for the first time. So me and Alex were like PlayStation kids pretty much the entire, I mean, I still am to this day, like a PS5 for life.
Amen.
Nothing against Xbox, but everything's on PC. So
Starfield might be, so I ended up winning. It was like a semi-annual thing that my unit has to do for like trainings and stuff. And I won a Series X, the Diablo one that came with Diablo 4. Haven't opened it yet. But Starfield, I might, because I loved EVE Online back in the day, and I'm just going to approach it like I did EVE Online.
Nice. So going back to the GameCube story, though, so like I was saying, me and Alex only had PlayStation for the longest time, and Nintendo was always that weird kind of like fascination for us, because like we lived in it was weird, like despite the PlayStation like 1 and 2 in particular being far ahead, like the best-selling consoles of those generations, the neighborhood we lived in was a weirdly like Nintendo-centric neighborhood. Like everybody had Nintendo consoles. So like growing up, like we were surrounded by N64s and GameCubes and stuff. And like I kind of had that, like, as much as I loved the PlayStation 1 and especially the PlayStation 2, you always kind of had that sort of envy where you'd always be like, you just watch the GameCube and you'd always be like, wow, that's so different from this. And like, I want to play those games, but I can't because Nintendo actually has exclusives. So years down the line, like, so this was around 2010. So GameCubes are finally being discontinued, or GameStop is basically giving them away. I went to the local GameStop and I remember this, like, they didn't have any. They were sold out because basically everyone came and just completely just like cleaned them out. They had one in the back that I saw sitting on the counter, and I asked them, like, what's wrong with that one? And they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Like, we're going to just toss it out. And I'm like,
I remember the story now.
I looked at them. I'm like, can I just buy that off of you? Like, I'll give you like whatever, like $5 for it. And they were kind of like, we're not supposed to do that, but if you step outside and just kind of hand me the money back over here, I'll let you get away with it. So I basically bought $5 for a quote unquote broken GameCube. And then I paid $50 for Melee because that makes sense. But best part is I get home, plug it in, press the start button, boots right up. I'm just looking at it like, did they just not plug it in? Or like,
know how the power button works?
or did they not have it set to AV2 or something? I don't know. But like I always found that hilarious. Like I spent $50 for Melee and then $5 on the GameCube the day
And
I
it
bought
still
it.
works to this day, right?
Yep, I still have that platinum GameCube. It's
Yep.
honestly GameCubes are tanks. Like you have to try to break one of those things.
Yeah. Didn't they huck it off a wall? Wasn't that a video? They threw it off a ledge or something with
There's
like an
multiple.
Xbox.
There's like multiple videos of people just abusing the shit out of GameCubes and they still work.
Oh my, yeah. The little tanks of consoles.
They're made of Nintendium.
The tiny discs.
Oh man, but yeah, that's always been one of my favorites. I want to hand the floor over to you, James. Like, what's one of like the craziest like stories you remember?
Oh my goodness. So when it comes to collecting, the story that, like, honestly, like the moment that I think of the most. So I ended up stopping my console gaming at 2004, 2005. World of Warcraft hit. I got hooked. So from like the heyday of the PS2 all the way, honestly, until mid PlayStation 4 life, because I played WoW until 2011, and then I left WoW, played Heroes of New Earth, the MOBA, into League of Legends, the MOBA. And it wasn't honestly until 2017, 2018, I really came back into like collecting. And my wife, like huge shout out to her. I told her, I want to get everything I grew up with all over again, because I was starting from ground zero, and we're talking almost a 10-year gap. And she went out of her way. She helped me. So in San Antonio at the time, there were 6 or 7 very reputable retro stores, and we literally just turned it into like afternoons of fun. We would go to one, go to the next, go to the next, go to the next, and before I knew it, my collection re-exploded. And it was so cool to just kind of turn it into like fun little day trips. I remember a store, they didn't like carrying RPGs, and they underpriced. So that's the only game I play. Bill knows this, Alex. Like, me and RPGs, it's like a duck in water here. And the store, he was selling them all almost 40% underpriced, and it was pre-COVID prices. So I'm just like, yoink, 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 yoink. I will buy them all, sir. It was great.
I miss the old like those times, because collecting, for people who don't like, I always say like whenever someone asks for like advice on getting into collecting, I usually jokingly will tell them not to, because
You ain't wrong.
This hobby is miserable. Like, it is literally like one of the most miserable things ever, unless you truly.
Not completely miserable. I mean,
Well, no, I'm
you
saying
get
miserable
some
in the.
enjoyment out of it.
I'm saying this from
At
the.
least I hope you do.
I'm saying this from the financial standpoint. I love the collecting aspect, but like, my God, nowadays it is so miserable sometimes. Like, just going out there and like.
It's miserable in your wallet. Let's phrase it that way.
Yeah. I mean, James probably knows this as well. But yeah, so looking at the years, like I started really seriously collecting like in 2009, and it was such a different time then. Like, literally nobody cared. Like, I always say like the console that really kicked off like the collecting like bug in me was the Sega Dreamcast. And I remember getting a complete in box Sega Dreamcast with one controller, like 2 controllers of VMU, for like $20 or something like that back in the day.
Oh wow.
Like, brand new, never opened. Like, cause like there was a point in time where nobody knew what the Dreamcast was, and just no one cared about it. And like, all the games were dirt cheap. I remember getting Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 for like nothing, and like those games are like $100 plus now, which is insane.
$130 for Sonic Adventure.
And I think Adventure 2 is even more.
Let's not find. You know what? As we quote games, I'm going to have a Google window open. So to the Googles we go. Oh no, I can't believe we're doing this. I can't believe you are allowing me to do this. Bill, I love you for this.
Google ahead. Bill, insert the clown music.
The circus music. Thanks, Slade.
Whenever we go off on
Oh,
tangents,
no.
insert the clown music.
Really? That is awesome.
So
Oh,
this is a
no.
run. I don't actually edit in, but it's been like a thing where. So basically, just for backstory, we did an episode with Rick from Pixel Project Radio,
Mhm.
and Alex just like completely broke during like the opening segment and just couldn't stop laughing, and like literally, poor Rick's just in there like he didn't know what to say. But
Well, because I was laughing for no reason. Like, there was no reason to be laughing, and they're like, "What? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I just can't stop thinking of clown music."
Oh no.
it was all because I had guessed it on me and Alex were on the game club pod with Slade doing his Between Two Pods thing,
Mhm.
and during it he had like music playing in the background. So for some reason that like just like clicked in Alex's head, and she just lost it for whatever
Well,
reason.
because my thought process was, I was like, "Oh, I wonder what music we would have in the back of our podcast if we had music going." And then the only thing going into my head was da 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 da, and
It
to
broke
this
Alex.
day, it's the only, if there was theme music in the back of our pod, it would be clown music. And I keep trying to get him to edit it in, but he won't do it. So maybe if you
I'm
bully
always-
him enough, it will work.
I'm
So
just
start
worried
bullying
about
him.
I'm worried about a copyright claim. That's really it. My reasoning there.
There's gotta be a there's gotta be a clown music for non-copyright.
Just
Freak.
record yourself, Bill. Think outside the
Yes!
box.
That's fair.
Yes.
So, okay, are we wanting GameCube or are we wanting Dreamcast?
Probably Dreamcast, because that one I think is the harder one to find these days.
So, $169.99 sold today, actually.
No, thank
Ouch.
you. No, thank you.
You could
How
also
much did you pay for it, Bill? No.
I've bought it twice because my first copy didn't have the cover art.
Oh.
My second copy I paid $60, which at the time I thought was too much, but nowadays
Well, it wasn't $169, so you saved $109. That should
Yeah.
make you feel happy or
So
sad. Or
I
both.
do want to share though. Speaking of like prices being really low, one of my favorite like adventures I ever went on was so James, you remember when the Vita was discontinued, right?
100%. Those were sad days.
And GameStop just completely like fire saled pretty much everything.
It would. Oh my gosh. I was with my brother. Me and my brother went to Anime Expo in
Nice.
LA back in 2018, and I didn't see a single video game, even like Tales of Hearts R. Like I didn't see anything over like $5, and I was just like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, Vita like completely, once it discontinued, like it was just like sell everything, like get rid of it. We don't want it anymore. So Alex was in college at this point, so she doesn't remember this at all. But literally, I went on I literally like had the day off. I like filled the gas tank in the truck and went on this like day long cross Massachusetts like road trip to every GameStop I could find, and just completely cleaned out all the Vita sections I could find of like stuff that like I didn't have, like
A Vita hunt.
like pretty much all the RPGs. So like I got most of
I
my
was studying for calculus.
I was wasting gas money driving around Massachusetts to buy video games. But yeah, I cleaned out like 12 GameStops of their Vita selections. I got like most of my Vita collection actually came from this, and that's how I got like all the rare RPGs that are now like hundreds of dollars for like no reason. And the sad part is most of these are really mediocre RPGs in hindsight too, but there's just something fun about the Vita. Like it's one of those like the biggest what if in gaming, in my opinion.
I think it's a testament to the Vita. If you look at practically every RPG on the Vita came to PS4 and then again to PS5. I mean, the biggest culprit, Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, Vita into 4, into now on 5. It is insane. Like, if your handheld is that awesome, come on, Sony, bring it back.
I mean, we're getting that Switch looking.
Don't you dare say it.
Oh no.
Not a fan.
I'm torn. Like, I want to really like it, but the fact that you have to be online at all times kind of takes a little bit of the fire away from it. Because, like, what if I'm just chilling? I don't want to be online. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm on an airplane that has the worst Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna pay $20 for this Wi-Fi. Well, I can't use my thing.
That's a fair point. So I bring that thing up because like one of my favorite Alex quotes ever was, we were talking about this on a podcast like a while back, and because Alex actually didn't know it was real at first. She actually sent me a picture of it thinking it was like a fake thing
I
that
thought
popped
it
up.
was fake. I
Um,
didn't think it was real.
And I remember like we were explaining to her like that it had to be plugged in all the time, and Alex's response was just, "That's fine. I don't leave my house." Which I was like, fair enough.
Which for me, I mean that's the reason I don't play the PlayStation as much as I wish I did, is because I have to like I don't I'm really blind, and I love the Switch because I can, and the DS because I can have the console right in my face. Is that good for your eyes? Probably not, but it's how I like to play. So when I saw that and Bill said it was real, I was so excited because I love the Switch. And I was like, this is perfect. This is for me. And it's like, I don't leave my house. I'm mostly here all the time. So unless I'm being forced to go to Texas. But then I just bring my Switch and it would be fine. That was my thought process. I don't leave my house.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that thing does well enough so that at least Sony can see some potential in it. But at the same time, it's
Handheld.
Sony, and I feel like they're gonna botch it somehow.
Don't say that. I want it to be good for me.
Yeah.
So what would you say is probably your biggest like collecting fail?
My biggest collecting fail. So I'm going to preface this. I don't think every seller, when it comes to eBay or the Facebook groups, Instagram, wherever, I don't think online sellers are inherently the devil. But this one person, if whatever state they're in were to flip into the water and they lose all their collection, I would shed no tears whatsoever. So my big three from my childhood was Lunar 2, and then Ark the Lad. Like the Ark the Lad collection, I kid you not, I probably into Ark the Lad 2 put almost 600 hours into that game, plus the arena battler where you could get the extra weapons and items and monster training and stuff. That was my big high school childhood moment. And a seller on one of the Facebook groups, he was selling it. I think it was like $2 under what it was going for at the time. It was going for like $80 at the time. Nothing too bad compared to what it is nowadays. And oh man. So we agree, we go to meet up, and I'm doing my homework and I'm like, wait, these images don't look right. So I inspect a little more, and sure as can be, he had been pulling stuff from other people's listings. So I'm like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We meet in person, and this thing, it looked like a dog chewed it up, had spit it out. The discs had top scratches that had cut all the way through.
Oh no.
And he didn't want to let me leave because he had to go out of his way to drive and meet me. So now it was my responsibility to buy this game. And I was just like, look, dude, I get
Pepper
you feel
spray.
like your time is wasted, but I am not buying this. There is nothing I can do with this. I can't salvage this with a resurface. This
he catfished you.
Right? Video game catfishing.
Video game catfished you.
It like that like really rubbed me the wrong way.
Ooh.
And then one time I thought like I had found like the mecca of meccas back in the day. So I saw the Super Nintendo box for Earthbound, like the big box, and it looked in immaculate condition. It was just like happenstance while I was in my World of Warcraft phase. But I remembered, oh, that game's cool. It's probably worth money. Let's hold on to it. It was at a Goodwill in Florida. So I paid the Goodwill like $3 price for old video games at the time, thinking, ha ha ha, I got a deal. I open it up and it's Earthworm Jim. The manual was for Super Mario World. And it had you remember how some of the games like came with various like maps and stuff? It was a map from a game I didn't even like a random insert from a game I didn't even know. And I was just like, well, this is what I get for thinking I pulled a fast one on Goodwill.
That's honestly one of my favorite. So it sucks at the time, but sometimes you get those funny moments where you'll buy the game and then it's something else in the case, and you're always like, huh. And you just kind of don't know what to
This
say.
isn't what I wanted.
I've had that a few times. I think one of my favorites was I got like a copy. It was like some obscure racing game on PlayStation because I have a weird obsession with that. And I opened it up and it was like Spyro 3, and I was like, that's funny. It's like now I have 2 copies of Spyro 3, but hey, I think I gave it to a store. I didn't even like get any money for it. I was like, I don't need this. I think I gave it to so shout out to our local well, not local anymore, but back when we were in Massachusetts, the local retro store, Bowser's Basement. I think I actually gave it to the owner, John, because I was like, hey, I don't want this. Like, you've been good to me, so I'm just gonna here. And I did away with it, and then I had to find a loose copy of that racing game after, which was, I think I paid more for the loose copy than I did for the case, which is kind of sad.
Womp womp.
Dun dun dun.
So have you ever had like a moment where like you find something out in the wild and like you don't have the money for it, but you have to get it because you know you'll never see it again?
So, oh man. So I live in Utah now, and a buddy of mine. So if you're ever in the San Antonio area, he runs the store Flashback Video Games. Henry, love you, man. You're like a brother. He will not only give you the best price, he will work with you when it comes for selling and everything. So it's not necessarily like picking something up in the wild. He found out about my JRPG collection. So it's end of 2021 going into 2022. I owned every RPG for PlayStation, PS1 to PS3, Vita, PSP, DS, 3DS, Game Boy Advance. Owned them all. And he had found out about it, and normally he didn't get a lot of interest in RPGs at his store, and gave me such an insane deal for the entirety of the collection. Because as you know, like if you're selling, some places you may get 50% value. Sometimes it's a little more in the store's favor, could be 40. Sometimes you get an awesome store that'll do like 60 to 75% value for more sought after titles. He did 80% value for the entirety of the collection. Wow. And it was just, I couldn't pass it up. So I'm actually in collection rebuild phase round 2.
So that's actually an interesting take. I actually was thinking more the other way around, of like you saw a game that you didn't have the money for, but you had to get it.
Oh, don't worry, I have one of those as well.
Oh, okay. Because I was like thinking, I'm like, damn, that's actually pretty cool too. I'm thinking if I've ever done that, which I haven't, but.
So,
No.
hey, so you never know. You could get the offer that you could not refuse.
I don't know.
Believe me, it was really, really hard because it's just like, but for what you were mentioning, so same store, complete in-box copy of Chrono Trigger, map, immaculate condition, had the registration card, immaculate condition, 0 dings, 0 fingerprint grease smudges on the box, no box bend from open, cartridge had no discoloration, still the original board, pristine condition. And I had to have it. So I was like, if I buy this, it's going to be very bad. So how do I make this work? So I actually ended up, this is in the process of me doing the recollecting. I had one on a Facebook raffle group. I had one copy of Suikoden 2 mint, and then I had one Lunar 1 and Lunar 2, and I was able to finagle a deal to get trade those 3 for Chrono Trigger, because that game is my childhood. That was the first RPG I really sunk my teeth into. My grandfather went out of his way to find this game so he could play it with me. So seeing it complete in box, it was one of those, I'm going to make this work, even if I regret my life choices afterwards.
We've all had those.
Yeah, but Chrono Trigger, you have to.
For me, Alex remembers this story because this was back when Alex had just moved into the apartment that she was living in before she bought her condo.
Yes.
And actually, no. Actually, this is farther back. This was your first apartment in when you first moved to
one in
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Oh, okay.
So
this was like pre-COVID.
This was pre-COVID. The collecting market still was somewhat normal. So this was like probably 2019, I want to say. Because it was 2019 because I was doing the Instagram blog at the time. So I came up to visit her like for the first time because she had been just moved into her place, and she had actually scoped out a bunch of retro stores in the area because there's a ton of them down here. It's actually kind of crazy how much these things are popping up everywhere all of a sudden. But excuse me. We went to the first store we went to was it's a local chain called State Line Video Games. There's like 3 of them around this area. And we walk in, and I always laugh because the mall that it's in is like the most decrepit mall you'll ever see. Like the floor is all cracked. They just leave the Christmas wreath up year round because they don't care. It's one of those malls. But
wow.
Yeah. But we go into the retro store, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, there's some decent stuff in here, but it's all mostly. So 2019, I was pretty much I hit that point a lot of collectors hit where like you have most of the stuff you really want, but there's a few like special things that you're looking for, but they're just way out of your price range. And I remember looking around being like, there's some good stuff, but nothing I really need or didn't like. I'm not, because we were planning on going to a bunch of different stores, so I didn't want to blow all my money in the first store. Then I look in the case that had the rare, like the expensive stuff. I look down and I see Popful Mail Sega CD, like pristine, $120. And I like literally paused and I went, I don't have that kind of money right now. And if I buy this, I'm going to blow out all my funds for the weekend. But this is Popful Mail for $120. I will never see this again. So I asked the girl behind the counter, I'm like, can I just like look at this like in depth? And she was all nice about it. She's like, sure. So open it up. It's got like the styrofoam that Sega CD and Saturn games had. It had like, the manual was pristine, like the gloss like finish that Working Designs manuals had.
Oh wow.
No cracks in the case. Like it was a mint Sega CD game. And I remember looking at Alex and I just kind of looked back and I was just like, all of a sudden I'm like pulling up my phone, I'm looking at my bank account and I'm like, all right, if I move a little money over here, maybe. And then I was like, I'm like, all right. And I charged it on credit. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to regret that later, but I need this now.
It's so insane. I mean, you hit the nail on the head earlier in the conversation. Like for people who are wanting to get into collecting, it's rough. Like
it really is.
4 years ago, you could get a pristine copy of Xenosaga 3 for worst case scenario $80 to $100. You could probably, like, if your haggling skills were good, you could find it for $60 to $75. And you want to get that now? Hey, good luck. Here's 200. Dot hack quarantine. Oh, let's get 320 from you. Oh, you like Suikoden 2? Oh yeah, that's my favorite. By the way, that'll be $450.
Oh.
Like Andrew Dragoon Saga? Don't even bother. Don't even bother.
What's that? Do you want to pay rent or do you want this video game?
So, believe it or not, actually, just to point it out now, I'm looking at a Game Eye for like prices. Panzer Dragoon Saga is down to like 900. Like it's under 1,000.
Now's your time.
Again, I mean, yeah, it's still 900, but it's
only the double digit, the 2 zeros.
I'm just saying, like the crash is coming, so keep a watch out. But I was gonna say the reason why I brought up Game Eye was I wanted to see what Popful Mail's worth now. So to put into perspective how good a deal this was, I paid $120. It's currently going for a good $526. So,
you know what I'm mad at coming from Japan? So you remember the second iteration, the Sega CD Mini that they were doing?
Mm-hmm.
They have Popful Mail and all of the RPG goodness on the Japan-only version of that console. Do they not think, still to this day, that we do not like these games?
No, you know the story. You want to know the real reason why?
Hit me.
Victor Island.
Yeah.
He didn't like the terms of the deal that Sega offered him, so he basically said, "No, these are my toys. You can't have them." Yeah, so that's why Popple Mail and Lunar isn't on the Sega CD. I mean, I don't blame Victor Island because he had every right to like negotiate a deal, and Sega wasn't willing to compromise. But at the same time, it's like these games are forever trapped on the Sega CD.
It's one day maybe Sega will come back and be like, you remember the Transformer of our consoles from the 90s? Well, let us introduce you to the Megazord of consoles. Sega CD 3.0. I choose you.
All that full motion video goodness.
Hey, all Sega needs to do, because he's still alive, is bring back Sega to Sanshiro for their advertising campaign, and they can compete with Nintendo all over again.
That's still one of the greatest like advertising campaigns ever. Just a crazy Japanese man running around beating up children for not playing the Sega Saturn.
Whose weakness is club zombies.
Yeah, Sega was amazing. You know what's sad? Like Sega was always weird in Japan up until the Saturn, where they finally figured it out. Of course, that was at the point where they completely botched it in America, but that's besides the point. It's funny though you mentioned Japan. Alex, you had went to Japan for a while.
Yes, I did.
And you had
I studied
visited-
abroad there.
And you had visited a ton of like retro game shops. What was
Yes.
that experience like?
That was pretty cool. Actually, so the funny part is a lot of them, yes, I visited some retro GameStops, but a lot of them were actually just like secondhand stores. A big thing in Japan is like the resale stores. A lot of the times when people move in Japan, they don't really pack a lot of their stuff. They actually sell a lot of it before they move. Um, so a big thing there is these stores that are just secondhand stores. You go in and it's basically stuff that people have sold and you can buy it. Not all of them, but a lot of them had like electronic sections, so it would have DVDs, CDs, and video games. So a lot of the finds I actually found for Bill were actually in just these secondhand stores where people just sold them for cheap because they were moving and wanted to downsize, which was pretty neat. But some of the game stores were pretty neat. I ended up going down to Tokyo at some points, and they have this huge shopping. It's almost, I forget what they call it, but it's like this really big street full of like anime, video games, and all of
Akihabara.
the Akihabara. I was brain
Hey.
farting, and I remember going, and that's where I found your Sega CD controller. No,
Sega
was it
Saturn.
Sega Saturn controller. And I found a lot of really cool stuff there. I remember I was texting Bill photos, and I was like, okay, I think it time's up that he's awake right now. And I was texting him photos. I'm like, do you want this, 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 or this? And you were like, all of the above, but pick one. So, but it was really neat seeing. I mean, a lot of them were. I think the coolest part was seeing the different cover art and stuff. That was pretty fun. For like games that we had here versus games back home. Games in Japan. So it was pretty neat. But the whole culture of like the resale stuff was pretty interesting there, and you could find a lot of really cool stuff while you were looking. My big regret though being in Japan is not being into collecting figures at the time, because
Oh no.
I was not into it at the time, and now I am very much in it. And I look back and I'm like, I could have gotten so many cool figures, and I didn't.
I'm just imagining you trying to get those back through TSA though.
Oh my god, one of the kids in my group that I was with, he literally he only packed maybe 5 outfits for a week. Every week, or 7 outfits. He had an outfit for every day of the week, and he wore that for the whole time we were there, which was like a couple months that we were there. He wore it every day just so his ginormous suitcase could be all anime figures. I'm not kidding.
Man
That
had his
box-
priorities.
He had his priorities. I remember at the time going, I'm like, is this necessary? And now I look back and I'm like, yes, it was necessary. So big. I mean, like, I can't call it a regret because I I wasn't interested in it at the time, so why would I have bought them if I wasn't interested? But I do look back and just go and just cry a little bit on the inside. All the One Piece figures I could have gotten. But I wasn't even
So-
watching One Piece at the time either, so
That's fair. So interesting you mentioned like your biggest regrets. This one is one that I've been thinking about for a while. Like, what would you say is like the one game that you let get away, that you had the opportunity to pick up and you just passed on it for whatever reason?
Poop Slinger.
what?
It's funny because I know that's a game.
I don't know that's a game. I
So-
just sorry, choked a little bit.
No, you're okay. So this game, it's the weird, like, super limited oddball collection that like Nicholas did back in the day. Only 84 copies were made, and I had the potential chance to pick it up back in 2019 when it was only going for $500, and I was like, at the time I bought games, like, I didn't really like, all of my games now are to play and enjoy. Like, I will keep the game sealed until I load it up to play it or pop it in the Switch or however. But outside of that, if it's not sealed, hey, no harm, no foul as I'm collecting it. And I was thinking at the time, I am never going to play a game that is called Poop Slinger. Like, what is this game about? What on earth is this? And so I passed it up. So the guy, he ended up selling it. And I figured you might ask a question like this. So I had it ready. Literally listed on eBay right now. PS4 Poop Slinger open. Complete in box. $6,000.
What? Oh my god.
Is it even a good game, or is it just
Poop Slinger?
is it a meme that's why it's popular now kind of thing?
I have no idea. I mean, we can get the digital, like, if you want us to have a weird show-to-show challenge, we can both acquire the digital version for $4.99. All three of us, actually, not both, and we can play it and see if it's a train wreck or they were
Well,
onto something.
At that point, we got to get John involved too.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
make it 4.
But yeah, I had that opportunity. Cool story, bookending this. So the area I work in, I cover. So for what I do for my job, I work in Montana, Idaho, Washington, Utah, part of Wyoming, Oregon, and Nevada. And in trips up to the Great White North area, no one really games. So pawn stores, Goodwills, everything, they just, whatever you can imagine at what would be the good Goodwill price, not the, oh, I've researched my game and I'm going to charge you double trying to get your money Goodwill price nowadays. And actually saw a copy, picked up said copy, sold said copy, not for that 6,000. That is insane if it goes for that. But I was able to bookend it, kick myself in the butt. Like, James, you should have done this sooner. It was the fastest purchase of my Goodwill life. And I think I gave the lady at the register a heart attack. Bless her heart. She handled me so well because I picture like Gollum with the ring. I was just like, like, I was just so dopamined out of my mind finding that in the wild.
That was like me at the flea market with Suikoden too, if Alex remembers this story.
Yes, I remember that.
So-
Your hands are shaking like
My Suikoden 2 story is one of my favorites because I was literally that was one of those games, because at the time it was like that was before like Konami re-released it on like PSN, so it was like still, I think it was going for like $150 at the time, which it's funny how that used to be considered really expensive.
Yeah.
But I remember we were walking around the flea market nearby where we're like our local flea market back in like the Plymouth area. And I remember I'd been browsing like the whole place the entire time, and like we were just about to leave, and I overheard one of the booths all of a sudden just say, hey, I got a copy of Suikoden 2 in. And I literally, Alex remembers this. I stopped in my tracks,
Yep.
turned around, like sprinted over to the booth, hands on like the counter, and just looked him in the face and went, "How much?"
Yeah.
And like the guy was so
He
scared.
was
Like,
so
he like
concerned.
jumped in the air, and then like he didn't know what to say, so he kind of just went, $60, like legit money on the counter. I was like, sold. Got it in my, like, gave him the money, he gave me the game, and I was gone. And I'm
You
just
were like, no take backs.
yeah, I booked it out of there. And I was like, I just ripped that guy off so bad, but I don't feel bad at all.
Nope. I mean, sometimes you have to startle them to get a good deal. You have to
basically-
use all tactics,
I
scare
kinda
them,
s- I
make
kinda
them fear you into getting
I
you
kind of
cheaper
strong
price.
arm. I basically strong armed the guy into giving me the
Scare
game.
the living Jesus out of them until they give you the price you want.
The worst part is too,
Go
like,
away, scary man.
I don't even think they had put it on display yet. They had literally
No, they
just got
didn't.
it, and I immediately was like, mine.
Gimme.
All I have, like the only image I have in my head right now is your video game Spidey sense tingled. You Superman pulled your shirt aside like, I am flea market man. And you just hop over there and you'd be like, sir, it is in your best interest to part ways with this game. You don't want no problems around here. That is the
Yeah.
image I have of you in my head now.
It was a bit more deranged and a bit more like spastic, but yeah. Excuse me.
I would say take Superman, but instead make him the Joker.
No,
and
picture more like
make
Wally
him scary.
West, like just being more. That's more what it was. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Oh, man.
I think that was the only time I really ever like ripped someone off and didn't feel bad about it. Like usually I'm not like, that's usually not my MO when it comes to collecting, but sometimes like you'll just kind of have that crazy moment where you're like, I need
want
it.
the deal. Give me the deal.
Oh man.
yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to
funny.
think, like, you ever had like a case where like you bought a game thinking it was like gonna be one thing and then it showed up and it was like way more than you were expecting?
Like in terms of like
So,
playability or like the collector's edition, tons of stuff in it.
So I'll give like an example. Like for me, like the one that like in hindsight ended up being one of my best scores ever was I bought a copy of Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance, and I remember getting it. I paid legit $3 for it.
Oh,
And keep in mind, this was like 2012, I want to say. So GBA stuff wasn't super bad at the time. So I was expecting the loose cart to show up. It comes in this box, and I'm like, this is a bit excessive for a cartridge. I open it up. It is a mint copy of the box, like pristine. I was like, wow.
I have found it.
Well, I didn't think, the funny part is I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was kind of just like, oh, that's kind of cool. I got a boxed GBA game. I don't have many of those. In hindsight, what makes this so interesting is Aria of Sorrow is like a $200 game boxed now. So,
Oh, wow.
I think I did pretty good.
So I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I just got up because you saying that struck a memory. It was a photo that I actually shared in the Discord group that we share for the podcasters, the co-op one. If you look at that photo, I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Where are, gosh darn it, pictures and videos? Why are there so many photos? Bill, I blame you.
It probably was me
Yeah.
Bill, I blame
Why'd
you.
you do that, Bill?
because I just
Come
like to
on.
share. Because I collect
Stop
too much.
sharing. No.
So GameStop was doing their buy one get one deal, and if there's nothing I really want, I let my points save up. So I actually had a $50 off coupon, and the way they're doing it now, instead of just doing one $50, you can do like up to 3 because they would limit it to one item. I'm assuming they got in trouble, so now you can use multiple coupons for multiple items. So I took $50 off plus the buy one get one. I got first. I know it's not the best game, but Forspoken brand new, Neptunia Sister versus Sister, The Legend of Heroes, Trails into Reverie brand new, and the Hero School kind of cozy JRPG like Valetheria The second one, all for $50.
That's not a bad deal.
I was like, oh my gosh, this doesn't happen. And come to find out, The Forspoken was not supposed to be a part of this. So due to human error, I was like, do 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 do. See, there's the clown music for you.
Yes.
That one, you can use that one. That
Yes.
one's not copyrighted.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Just
I mean,
hey, wait, you called me Bill.
I know. I did that. I was like, ah, I'm so tired.
I heard her like her thought.
Well,
She like
my thought was saying thank you, and then Bill, please use it now, but it became just thank you, Bill, and
I was gonna say like, why are you thanking me? I didn't
I have
do anything.
tired brain. It's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday.
It is.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
You know what's really fun about collecting though? Like looking back, like do you remember how like back in the day, like some games like were just worthless and like now they're like absurdly expensive? Like for me, like my favorite was like Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I paid $20 on eBay for it back in like 2012, and like that's like a $400 game now.
Look at OG Persona. Like literally, I will never forget the first time I loaded it up, and remember the overworld map. You're not really people. It's
so
literally
bad.
like you're like an upside down pointer triangle with a little ball on top of it.
Yeah, but it
like-
looks like a freaking CGI movie from like the 80s.
It's like, what is this? And look at that game now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man,
The damn
was-
Persona boom.
Oh man, honestly, that was Mega Man Legends for me. If you like, I don't remember many people liking Mega Man Legends that were around. That I was around back then, and I actually picked it up for. It was on sale at the Base Exchange. That was the last game I had ended up purchasing for my original PlayStation, and it was well after it had been launched. But I picked it up for. It was on sale for $5, and look at that game now.
Wow. That's actually funny. You mentioned Mega Man Legends. I actually got Legends 2 at that same flea market from the same people I got Suikoden 2 from like 2 years later, and they didn't remember me.
They blocked you out. They were
They
like, well,
probably
the
didn't
scary
remember.
man is gone.
But
Thank you.
that one was funny too because I was shooting the shit with them, and I had mentioned I was looking for Mega Man Legends 2, and the guy like is like sitting behind the counter. He's like, we were kind of saving this because we didn't really want to sell it, but he pulls it out, and I'm just like, can I ask how much? And he's like, yeah, like 80. I'm like, sure. And I just didn't mean to punch my mic there.
Punch your mic.
I was like, sure, and I
Yeah.
paid for it. And 80 at the time was a bit much, but now it's honestly a really good deal for Legends 2.
Oh man, remember when Tronbon came out? The Misadventures of Tronbon?
I still don't own that because I can't justify that price.
That and is it Tails or Tail Concerto? I always forget if there's an S.
Tail Concerto. That's the weird like platformy one that it's like the one Atlas published game I don't have.
That one will break your wallet nowadays.
That one will. Both basically most PlayStation RPGs will break your wallet because.
What's that you say? You want to enjoy this here classic banger, laddie? Oh, give me all your money.
You want to play Clodelka, kids? I hope you have $400. Actually, it's probably not even that expensive anymore.
You said Kodelka?
Yes, that's
Guess what? We still have the Googles pulled up on eBay. Look at this. It's a fun eBay outing. Yeah.
Bill, you should play like something close to like the Me music.
the Wii
That would
Shop,
be fitting.
the Wii Shop channel music.
No, just the regular Me music. That one too. Do do do. That one. It's like elevator music. Well, wait.
So I've seen not completed items. So non-completed saw for $210. One sold today with the registration card, mind you, $299.95.
Okay, so it's not 400, but that's still.
That is insane. You know what? Since we're on here, and we have talked about Suikoden 2, not just once, but twice, from you and myself, Bill.
And now a third time.
And here we go.
Round 3.
Somebody made out like a
When you
bandit.
told me.
230 sold 4 days ago. Oh wow, it's way down. September 4th, 175.99.
Oh,
All right,
damn.
time to be
Crash.
on the hunt for some Suikoden 2.
Crash is coming, guys. The crash is coming.
The crash.
So do you remember so this is actually a fun one because Alex remembers this.
No.
Do you remember when DS
Don't put
games were
thoughts in my head. No.
Do you remember when DS games were absolutely worthless on GameStop's used shelf?
Oh yes. I
Yep.
remember that.
Remember when you could get Pokemon for like $5 on the
Oh
shelf?
my god, yeah, not anymore.
I got all the DS Pokemons for nothing, and they're all, ugh.
I mean, you want Pearl, you want Diamond and Pearl, pay 150 each.
I bought Platinum at a GameStop for legit $10, and it's like a $200 game now.
Hey, guess what? Welcome to your resident eBay specialist. You mentioned the game, Pokemon Platinum. I almost had a brain fart live on air in my Walter Cronkite voice. Survey says,
It won't be the first time, and it won't be the last.
wow, that's actually not a bad deal for today prices. Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, all 3 complete in box with every insert. $380, just sold today. Platinum, also sold today. $99.95. You called it. The crash is happening.
I'm always so skeptical buying DS and like GBA now, though, because there's so many fakes out there all of a sudden.
I have to so it's what I tell anybody. Like, if we ultimately collect like what we enjoyed when we grew up, and then it kind of branches out from there. Like, we'll always tend to gravitate towards what we remember the most. And like the new age collector, they remember DS, 3DS. They remember, like, that's like the bread and butter. And I always tell them, look at the front, look at how the sticker is placed, and then look at the back. If there's no eye, if there's the Nintendo eye and there's no dot above it, pass on grass. Or if it looks like it was just soldered in, run away.
Yes, because DS and GBA are the worst with it right now. It's not so prevalent with other things yet, but God, it's probably coming.
I have no problem, and this is to all you resellers. Like, if you listen to this, I'm going to put you on notice here. If you're going to sell a dupe, fake, like, we'll just say basically the Chinese equivalent knockoff one, label it that. I have no problem you selling it that way. You were honest with me up front. If I just want this to play the game and that's less expensive, I know what I'm getting into. If you sell me that awesome complete in box Dragon Quest IV back in the day for the Nintendo, and it's immaculate, and I'm just oozing joy at getting it, and I open it up and it's a knockoff, and you lied to me, I will find you and I will Liam you.
So speaking of opening up games, this is actually one that I was thinking about because this happened to me once, and I want to know if you've had the same experience. Have you ever bought a cartridge, plugged it in, and it was not the game that the cartridge said it was?
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about, because I bring this up because I always like to talk about the GameStop Chrono Trigger debacle.
Oh no, yeah, that
the Chrono Trigger that went to like 5 different houses. For people who don't know, this was a Madden NFL with a Chrono Trigger shell attached to it. And this thing got passed around to like 5 houses before GameStop finally took it out of circulation. It's baffling how like but like that's a phenomenon that does happen in the collecting.
So it was nothing really serious. And it was actually while I was a kid. So it was actually something that had happened. I want to say this was 95. It was either 95 or 96. It was right before my family and I moved to
Fire
Turkey.
Nation.
Right? So
Sorry.
if you remember the Super Scope for the Super Nintendo and all of the really gimmicky games. So I had my parents had bought me Battle Clash. And I loved it. And I like so much so that I wanted to get Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge. And I'm pestering them. I'm being this annoying little 10-year-old, like, Mom, Dad, come on. My grades are good. I'm listening. I'm doing dishes. Please buy me this game. So we were on a road trip to visit some family friends over in Kentucky. And we ended up stopping at a Kmart because my mom wanted to pick some stuff up. Like she had this weird thing, like I forget what it was, but she only would buy it from Kmart. I don't know why to this day. She was never revealed it, but we saw the game. And so I was in their little bargain bin that was maybe questionably new, maybe very used. You could never tell what you were getting. So I ended up picking it up. And it looked super complete and everything. Like there was no seal or anything on it. So it was just like the box as is. I think it was like maybe 11 or 12 bucks at the time. I loaded up, I'm dialed in, I'm ready to go. And Super Mario All-Stars comes on. Like I was crushed. Like that, I just wanted to have that super scope on my shoulder and just go. Like, I don't care what anybody says. For me, that is my favorite gimmick item ever.
See, what's funny to me is like theoretically you ended up getting a better game technically, but it wasn't what you wanted.
I was so mad. And then my parents were like, "Oh, so you're going to be ungrateful, are you? Well, now you can't play this game."
No.
And I'm just like, no.
So that story is much more interesting than mine. Mine was literally I bought a copy of at a flea market from a sketchy vendor. I bought a copy of Ken Saden for the Master System, and I booted it up, and it was some baseball game. I was like,
no.
I was like, oh, it's not even fun, like a fun surprise. It's just like like great.
You have officially earned the nickname. You are forevermore Bill Sketchy Flea Market Barber.
Well, the flea market wasn't sketchy.
terrorizer.
It was the one vendor at the flea market that was kind of sketchy, because they were openly selling like bootlegs, but like not saying they were bootlegs. And I honestly probably should have taken that as the hint that maybe this wasn't a good idea. I only, excuse me. The one caveat I'll give is I only paid $15 for it, so it really wasn't that big a deal.
That's not bad.
But at the same time, I was like, ooh, Ken Saden. I heard that's one of the better Master System games. And then I booted up and it's some baseball shit. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, man.
And then I go to eBay and I'm like, how much is Ken Saden? And it's like, oh, it's no wonder that deal felt too good to be true, because Ken Saden was going for like 30, I think, at the time.
You got me, you dirty rat. So, since you've been asking me questions, fun question for you. I'm going to flip the tables on you there, Bill.
Go
and
for
you
it.
as well, Alex.
Oh, no.
So we've talked about our adventures, our misadventures, cool finds, weird finds, everything in between. What is one habit you both have when it comes to collecting that some people, they might kind of scratch their head a little bit? Like, I don't know why they collect like this, but okay.
I know Bill's.
Well, I'm not sure you do, because I have a lot of weird fucking habits
I know
with my
one
collecting.
of your weird ones is like you get on a tangent and then you're like, I need them all. Like your random like NASCAR game collection where
Hey.
you buy all of the most garbage games and you're like, I know this is trash, but I want it.
It's because I'm a NASCAR fan and I want to own every NASCAR game. That's not that deranged. That's just
I don't know, Bill. Some of the games you buy are like, oh, this looks garbage, or you made a podcast for another console and you're like, I must buy them all.
Hey.
I will own them
Hey.
all.
leave the 3DO alone.
No, I won't. I'm gonna bully the 3DO because it's not the Jaguar. You should have started a Jaguar podcast. I'm gonna start a Jaguar podcast, just to compete with yours.
Jaguars only, no bills allowed.
Yes, no Bill.
I'll
get a
even
co-host.
own a Jaguar.
I don't. I'll have to steal yours. Can I
Um,
borrow it, please?
I'm gonna say like a collecting thing that I do that's kind of weird is occasionally I'll like just like, because like I'm at the point now where like the games I really want are just unobtainable right now. Like the big one I've been looking for years is Magic Knight Rayearth, which to circle back actually, because I never answered this question earlier, that was the game that I saw and I passed on that I forever regret, because I could have got that game for $200 like years ago and now it's like $700, so womp womp there. But going back to James's question though, like in terms of like just like some of my weird collecting habits, like I have now, like sometimes like I'll like make like little challenges based off of cheap games that I to add to the collection. Like a big one I'm doing right now is like I'm trying to collect all the racing games on PS1 just because there's so many racing games on PS1.
Oh my goodness, you are not lying.
One of my favorite of all time is simply just called Racer, and it's just that's it. That's the
Racer.
title. No, it's not Racer. It's just Racing. That's the game. Another one. This one's more sentimental, but like the first video game I ever played was Clax for the Game Boy Color.
Hey,
Because Christmas morning, my first handheld ever was the Game Boy Color. I got it Christmas morning. Had two games I could choose from. I had Clax and I had Mario Deluxe. And my childhood brain said, Clax, that's the way I'm going to go. And I remember playing that. And it's always been kind of a nostalgic game for me. So like recently I've made it kind of a goal. I want to collect every version of Clax I can find. To the point where I have the one sealed game I have in my collection, because I don't collect sealed games. I buy games to play them. This one I made an exception just because of what it is. I have a sealed copy of Clax for the Atari 2600. The reason I won't open it is just because it's Clax on the 2600. I mean, like if I really need to play it, I'll just boot up the Atari Anthology collection and just play it there.
I mean, you're not wrong.
That it's such a pristine box. Like I just don't want to open it because it's kind of like this is honestly a piece of art, like artwork and history. And the other cool thing about it is too, a lot of people don't know this. Clax was actually the final official Atari game to release for the 2600.
Poor old Atari.
But yeah, that's probably some of my weird gaming collecting habits. What about you, Alex? You and your figures.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I think it shows that I've collected a lot of One Piece figures, but it's my favorite show. But I also really collect a lot of Luffy figures because he's my favorite character from One Piece. I don't know. I don't think I do anything that weird when it comes to figures. I don't think so. Except I need them arranged like perfectly, or else it really bothers me. Oh, also, I have a problem with buying really expensive JoJo's figures because they're all really expensive because they're all beautiful and really well made. So probably like the majority like of the most expensive figures in my collection are all JoJo's figures because they're all so expensive.
Nice.
I'd say my JoJo's ones are at least up to, I'd say at this point, probably around $700 to $800
That's
alone.
some figures.
It's just JoJo's, and I think I only have about like 8.
Nice.
And I know not all of them are worth. There's one that is especially higher. Oh, actually, I'm probably all wrong then. I'd say probably more like the 900 to 1,000 range at this point. Then never mind. That sounds worse. That sounds worse.
No, well, I mean, Alex, we're game collectors. That doesn't sound that bad to us.
Yeah. Well, there's two that are expensive. Like I bought one recently that was of Jotaro's stand, which Jotaro is one of my favorite characters, and that one was around $200. I did that at Kineticon, and then I have another one, which is Joseph Joestar, which is this cool figure because it's like a bust of him. So it's cool, but it was like $300. So.
Oof.
But it's really cool looking, and it's really, really nice and super detailed. So it's worth it, but also big oof. And I also bought it from the store. Like they literally posted a photo of it because I followed it. I followed them on like Facebook or Instagram, and then I saw them post it. I literally drove down that day and bought it.
Nice.
And they were just like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Clearly, I'm not okay."
Hey, you are okay now. You completed the set.
No, there's still more Joe stars.
You completed the set at one time.
Excuse me.
No, I wasn't even complete then. I've never had it complete.
So
Oh goodness.
the worst part is Alex says this like she's embarrassed, but like we're sitting here like, no, this is perfectly normal. Like, what are you
No,
talking
I'm
about?
not it's more of like I know my mom's gonna shake a head, but it's like it's not like I've spent $1,000 over like the span of like a week. It's like
What's
over
wrong
the
with
span
that?
of multiple years at this point. All right, you know what? Whatever. Spend all your money if you want to.
No,
I mean,
I
but also
can't
pay for
anymore.
like the things you need to like live, but also do whatever you want. I
See,
don't care.
That's the tragic part about us starting this series now is like I'm starting it now at a point where I can't really collect anymore because I have to
Well,
pay
that's
for
the
my
point
house.
of the series, though. You can live through other people's collecting stories. It's
Well,
fine.
now I'm at the point where I just want to talk shop and share with people. That's why that's kind of the reason why we
Shit,
started
Bill.
this.
Oh man. Well, to help you out, Bill, do you care about it having the stickers and the reg card when it comes to Magic Knight Ray Earth? Before I tell you my weird thing.
Honestly, not really. I just would prefer it to be in the case with the manual.
So it is going down in price here recently. So it was back in August. Disc case manual, no stickers, no reg card, $580. So it is on the downtrend without those.
I'll definitely keep an eye on it. For now, though, I have to pay for house.
You know what? I'm going to send you links every day now. Not to tempt you, just to keep you ready in case the time, like tax return comes and you're like, hey, you know, I've allotted everything. I've got this left over. Thanks, James.
Well, I mean, we've already established we're going to meet at Retro World one of these days, and then that's when the real game hunt's going to happen.
Yeah, let's not talk about our wallets then.
I'm going to have to start preparing for that, like, now, just so I'll have money by then.
We have got to like that. I feel like personally, from the collective, all our various shows, everywhere in between, all of us, like, we get along pretty well. We jive pretty well. It would be so cool to have some type of bigger reunion. Like you, me, Liv, Alex, you have to come too. You are now officially part of the family. You're indoctrinated.
Oh no. I'm
But-
scared. No, just kidding.
It would be such a good time. It would be so much fun. And especially at something like that, just the hauls we would find, because you have your Bill senses for what you're focused on. I've got my James senses for what I'm focused on. And together we can enhance each other's stuff. And then when we're like, oh, hey, there's a figure. Do-do-do-do-do. Alex, come in. Booth number 1. I repeat, booth number 1.
And I'll
This
just
is
sprint.
not a drill.
I'll start swinging from the ceilings, Spider-Man style.
Then you'll get
I'll just be
deafened by
waving in the rafters for you
But then,
guys to
Alex, but then
follow.
you'll get deafened by the freaking loudspeaker
Oh,
in
yeah.
that building.
Yeah, that was something.
Oh, man.
That
But
was fun, though.
so my weird collecting thing, my dad got me started on this. So with his record collection, so my dad's record collection, he's been collecting records since 1981. And I'm talking like he has a sealed copy of the White Album from the Beatles
nice.
on vinyl. And he would always buy 2. He would buy one that will forever stay sealed and like in the collection as a cool looking piece, or if someone offers the right dollar amount. But then he will also buy one that he opens and listens to. And when it comes to new game purchases, I will forever buy one sealed and I will buy one to play. And that way, if a trade comes along or all of a sudden it turns into Godzilla for PS4,
or like Fortnite or whatever, like some stupid expensive game.
God bless Fortnite's physical disc back in 2017. If you have that, go sell it. But yeah, like that's what I'll do. Easy example. So from Play Asia, I picked up the physical copy of Mugen Souls for the Switch re-release.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up 2, one sealed, one that I play, and that is what I do with all new games.
Nice. I wish I had the funds to do that, but
Oh my god.
It's not so. What I wish everybody gets to enjoy. So like GameStop, they give us the random discounts, things like that, right? But a lot of places will do some type of military discount, or as you well know, Bill, like if you become real good friends with a retro store owner of any kind, you're never paying full price. You're at best, you're going to pay what maybe they paid for it. Like, unless it's something that, they have to add a little bit more on. And that's where I've kind of lucked in. Like, because the retro stores, when they get, so I don't know about there where you guys are, but at least when I was in Texas, like whenever they got new games in, when people would trade in collections, like the ones that they wouldn't open, they would honestly be like $20 to $30 less than what they were retailing for. And I'm just like, yoink, because their main focus was retro.
Like you've truly befriended an owner of a store. Like I always remember, like I had one point where it was like I was at Bowser's Basement, the local store, and I remember like there was a game I really wanted, and someone actually offered more money for it than he was going to sell it to me for, and like John actually gave it to me just because he was like, "You're a regular. I'm going to take care of the regulars first." And I was thinking, I'm like, dude, you didn't have to do that. Like I want you to stay in business, but like it was really nice in hindsight.
It's awesome. Like that's the biggest advice, since we've talked about collecting, this is for you listeners out there. The biggest piece of advice I feel we can share is be nice to your local store. They do
Yes.
have to make money. You are sometimes not going to get stuff at a deal, a discount, the friend hookup. But once you have established yourself as a regular, like you go in, you purchase, it's retro, haggling is going to happen. Every store owner gets it. But if you approach them with respect and you continue to be regulars, what Bill just said, that will happen for you. I guarantee it. I will sell my podcast if it doesn't for a whole $1.
I guess
$1.
speaking on this train, like any like I guess like a segment like probably like tips and advice, maybe like I thought would be interesting, even though I made the joke at the beginning that don't get into this hobby, but if you're this far in, you're probably already either interested or you're already in it at this point.
We've hooked them.
To me, like I always said, my biggest like advice that I give out to people is always like, you don't need to own all the most expensive games ever right away. Like start small.
100%. I think so. The best advice I can give anyone listening, what Bill said, like that is you don't have to get them all right away, especially in the current price climate, because that will, if you don't have unlimited funds, you're either maxing out your credit card, not living in your home anymore, or you're selling what you just purchased at a fraction of the price. Don't do it.
Yes.
I think the biggest piece of advice I could give, join the Facebook groups. A big community that I'm involved in is the Collectors of America group. Every single console you can imagine, they have them. It's on Facebook. PS4, 3DO, Sega CD, PlayStation 1, on and on and on. Each of them are dedicated to that console specifically, so you can narrow down your hunt. And 90% of the people there are willing to work with you. So easy example, back in the day while I was on this, when I'm still a part of the group, I was really, really, really looking for .hack GU Rebirth. That was the one I was missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was retailing at the time for complete in box. I want to say it was about 45. And I also give yourself a monthly budget. Try not to go over it, because it is very easy to overspend in this hobby.
Uh-huh.
And I was coming real close to that. So I had $39 left to spend for my monthly budget. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to see if I can save a little bit of this to roll into next month's budget. So I made a polite offer. I was like, hey, would you take 38 for it? Not too much off, $7. And then he was like, yeah, sure, totally fine with that. And I have so many experiences like that where they're willing to work with you. And sometimes they won't budge. When I picked up back before the collection was gone, Xenosaga 3, I paid full retail COVID price for that at the time. But
R.I.P.
those small groups, they are so important to get what you want. And the conventions, you will get really good deals if the conventions take care of the vendor. If they charge a high vendor price, and you can look this up because they'll say, hey, it costs X for a booth.
Mm-hmm.
If it seems really high, you're going to pay premium. If it seems like here next month, sorry, actually not next month. It actually just happened this past weekend. The big retro store here rented out the convention center, and if you wanted to have a booth, store or no store, like you just wanted to set a booth up, it was $30 for a table, like a full fold out table space. You know as well as I, that is super cheap.
Yeah.
And everybody who went there like hit it out of the park. The average game was selling 15 to 20% underpriced. So keep an eye out for that as well. And it's free knowledge for us, so we know what we're getting ourselves into.
One other piece of advice I want to give, this is my last one for this installment of hopefully this ongoing series. Don't base your collection off of what everyone tells you should collect. Collect what you want. Because like, I don't know how many people I see like I'm not calling out names. Like I love like Scott the Woz. I love like Metal Jesus Rocks, like all those YouTube channels. Some people will base their entire collecting like opinions off of like YouTube channels. And I'll be like, that's not how you should do this, because you're just going to make your life a lot harder in the long run.
You are like it. We as gamers, especially like so easy example in the RPG community, Bill and I both have different tastes on Final Fantasy. Like my personal favorite Final Fantasy will always be Final Fantasy V. Love that game. But for, I want to say like a solid 90 to 95% of the community, if you don't agree that 6 is the best Final Fantasy of all time, you're wrong. And there's no definitive defense behind it. It's like, oh, what do you like, Bill? Oh, Final Fantasy 8? Yeah, no, you're wrong. It should only be 6. 6 is the best. You are trash.
You know, the sad part is I've had arguments about that before, because like I'll see like a Final Fantasy like this debate going on, and I usually I don't come in right away saying 8's the best, because spoiler warning, I don't actually think 8's the best Final Fantasy. It's just my favorite nostalgically. But
I know it's trash.
I'll come in and
like it.
Nostalgia is hell of a drug. But I
still don't like the N64.
You have no nostalgia for it.
True.
Hashtag conquers bad fur day.
Yeah, that's one of the few. Unfortunately, that's expensive. But yeah, I was saying, what I was saying is like 8's my favorite game personally, but like if I'm gonna say like what I think the best one is, it probably would be either 6 or like 4 or 9, probably, honestly.
2.
So and that is totally fine. Like we like to your point, you know, don't listen to what others are gonna say, because
unless it's about One Piece. Then you listen to what I say.
She's been really good this entire episode, not going into One Piece fangirl mode, so like
I haven't.
It's starting to break through a little here.
I'm sorry.
I mean, Luffy, crazy cartoon god, has now finally been delivered onto the TV. It is understandable.
Yes. Someone understands.
I actually don't watch One Piece, but that
what?
I have never seen a full episode. The only time I've watched a partial episode, random tangent, Luffy was fighting some cheetah-looking dude in a tower. And
yes. That's Enies Lobby. And he was fighting one of the agents from Cyberpunk.
She knows the exact episode.
Yeah, that was from Enies Lobby.
That is the partial episode I watched. However, it populated... God bless these random algorithms. I was watching, I was doing what we do nostalgically, like, hey, I miss watching this cool fight from this anime or this show. And for some reason that populated into like a recommended video. And I was like, I have to see this. And seeing this giant dragon Kaido's eyes like pop out like Looney Tunes from Wile E. Coyote back in the day made me chuckle. So hats off to your 9 billion episode anime.
It's only 1,000, like 100.
Only 1,000,
and it's apparently not even halfway done.
Well, I don't know. Who knows at this point? But all I'm saying is it's worth the trip. Start watching it. Trust me, you won't regret it, because all that silly cartoony goodness, like, it happens from the very beginning. So it's so good. So good.
One day I may try it.
One
Can't
day,
promise. Can't
tomorrow.
promise you that's tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow you're starting it, and you'll keep me updated. Thank you.
Well, no, we gotta play. We gotta play Poop Slinger first.
All right. If we play Poop Slinger, you gotta start watching One Piece.
I will give you one episode for that.
Or how about this? How about compromise? You watch the live action.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do
Yeah.
that.
It's only 8 episodes.
Look at us bartering over Poop
There we
Slinger.
go.
For this,
I'm just slowly converting everyone to a One Piece fan. It's fine.
for this game about poop, you must partake in the One Piece quest.
Yes. And then you'll go, this was really good. I'm going to watch the show. And then I won't even have to make you watch it. You'll just want to on your own.
Oh man, but
So,
I was we tangented hard.
Yes.
Game how you want, enjoy how you want.
Yeah.
Like
Sling
that is
poop.
exactly fling poop if you choose. But that's like honestly like the number one advice that was given to me back when I was a kid by my dad, and it's something I live by because your tastes are going to be different than my tastes, and it's going to be different than Alex's tastes, and
Yes.
so on and so forth. If I force my taste on you aggressively for what you should collect or buy, you're not going to want to collect, and the community potentially lost someone good.
yes,
Mm.
like 100%. Like, not everybody's gonna want to play Galgun, but some people are perfectly into that.
What's that panty party you say?
Oh, goodness.
You know, it's actually this is a perfect segue because I want to talk about like one of the final questions, which I want to be kind of like the recurring final question for this is, what is one game that you just refuse to own because like whatever reason, like for any reason, like what's a game that you just never will be in your collection?
Final Fantasy VI.
Okay, this is not where I thought this was going to go. Curious why.
So most people, a friend of mine was a guest on our show while I was gone for a weekend work trip, and to quote him, we sometimes nostalgically remember games better than we should, to the point that it makes us lose sight of everything else. And Final Fantasy VI, everybody remembers it. Like everybody will tout it. Like I agree. I think for like Kefka, arguably one of the best villains of all time. Like if you look at the nuances that they were able to incorporate on the Super Nintendo, no less, that is astounding for what they did. But it is the only mainline Final Fantasy I've never been able to finish. I didn't get the North America release of Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters. I had to get the Switch version off of Play Asia. And last month I was gone almost the entire month in various travels. I played Final Fantasy 1 starting, finished Final Fantasy 5, put it away. Still to this day, I have not played Final Fantasy 6 past suplexing a train. And I just don't like it. It never... Like I didn't. My first time trying it was in 2014 on Final Fantasy VI Advance. I just couldn't get into it, and so many people. It like goes back to the other point we were talking about. So many people are like, "Well, if you don't like this, your taste is arguably bad in video games, and you need to reevaluate yourself in your life because Final Fantasy VI is a god among games, and you're a pleb." And like, due to just that nonstop vitriol of like, I'm going to call it what it is, like toxic adoration for that game, turned me off on it completely. I will never own it in my collection, and I will die on a hot take hill of it is not the best Final Fantasy.
I mean, honestly, like best Final Fantasy, that is a really hard one because it really has to do with your preferences. Honestly, like your reasoning is perfectly justified. 6 is an interesting one because like I came into it years later and I just really enjoyed it from the get-go. I think it's just I love the soundtrack and the world of that one. But
The soundtrack, the soundtrack is dope, I will admit.
So it's funny because my answer to this question is always the same, and it's kind of predictable and because of what the game is, but the one game I will never have in my collection is the Guy game.
And good that you
And
don't.
my running joke at conventions now is I have a counter of how many copies of the guy game I find, and I like to just like keep a tally.
So you're not going to the extreme of the one guy buying all the Shaq Foos to put them in a dumpster, but you're keeping tally.
Well, my whole thing with the guy game is I don't want to have that in my possession, period. Like
Yeah.
just because of obvious reasons. But I will say at Retro World this year, I found 2 copies of it, and one of them definitely sold because it was gone gone on day 2. So
No.
make that of what you will.
Final Fantasies. I have no problem with ridiculous games. I mentioned a game called Panty Party. You are literally a pair of underwear in a shoot 'em up and shooting enemies, revealing waifus.
Yep. I mean, I mentioned Galgun, which is literally the rail shooter where you shoot anime girls with pheromones, and you know.
It like I can like I would never play it, but if it randomly fell into my collection, cool. Funny story that I will have for why that's there. But yeah, Final Fantasy VI will never ever touch it. Like a friend of mine in Texas, if you remember, Final Fantasy VI was Final Fantasy III for us originally.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the local game stores, I think it was called a Game Trader, but it was in Austin. They had complete in box Final Fantasy III with map, reg card, everything. A little bit of manual damage. Everything was immaculate. And this was 2021. Guy was selling it for $40. And
Wow.
he was like, "Hey, did you want this?" I was like, "Yeah, pick it up." And I immediately up traded for something better. Like, didn't even touch my shelf.
Oh, that's heartbreaking because that's actually one of my favorite cover arts of all time. 6 is interesting to me because I love both the American and Japanese cover art.
You know what you should totally do? You should get Kefka's laugh. And instead of my clown laugh, that little clip is what you insert for clown laughs forevermore.
The most sinister clown laugh of all time.
Like, I know it's a weird hot take, and I've gotten tons of grief for it. But yeah, that is my stance. Also, Echo the Dolphin. That won't touch my collection ever.
Oh boy.
I was going to church back when I was a young kid, and our I don't know if you guys had it, but my parents were like, "Oh, go with so and so's family to church. You'll make new friends," that kind of thing.
We didn't make it more than the one day in church.
So, like, I kept my mom happy. I kept the peace so I could still game and not hear the "Why isn't your homework done?" stuff. And I remember making friends with a kid from church. Nice kid. We're gonna call him Ben because I don't remember his name. But Ben had a Sega Genesis, and the only game his family let him have was Echo the Dolphin. And the entire time, and mind you, like back home, I've got Super Mario RPG, I've got Chrono Trigger, I'm knee deep in Super Nintendo goodness. I had finally picked up a Sega. I was knee deep in Sonic goodness. So the little gamer kid is sitting here awkwardly, and his parents are like, "Yeah, video games are the devil. They spawn nothing but evil. But this one is so nice. You're a dolphin."
Meanwhile, the final boss is literally aliens.
Oh God.
Oh no.
I will admit I was not around long enough to if he ever got to the final boss. But in my head, I can only imagine how that went. And they were literally just trashing on video games. They were trashing on what my little 9, 10, 11-year-old brain loved more than anything. So back in the day, I made a vow. I was like, screw them parents. I'm never going to own Echo. It's a stupid game. And for some reason, it still holds true at 37 years old.
Yeah, I mean, Echo 1 is like one of the most unironically horrifying games you could ever play because, like, if you've got like a fear of like the ocean and like the weird what's unknown down there, don't play Echo the Dolphin because my God.
It's only the first level that's bright and sunshiny.
And then aliens abduct all your friends, and then it immediately goes downhill from there.
Oh God.
But yeah, we're actually getting pretty close to our 2-hour time limit, so I figured this is where we should probably wrap things up. James, do you want to plug your show or anything else you're working on right now?
Yeah. So if you guys are fans of the show, and if you give a chance, so the Games with John and James podcast, we've been around for a couple years. The big thing I'm working on, so I had actually written an article about noticing how my collecting habits were going, noticing how it was kind of spiraling. So I actually wrote an article on how to give your basically like make time for gaming, like take that deep breath and kind of give some tips and tricks to help people, because as adults our life is busy. And I've actually started a new series. I've slowed my purchasing of games down to a crawl. I mean, it is taken a lot because, I mean, September we're feasting on Disgaea, Monochrome Mobius. Like, I could keep on going with RPGs that have
Star
come
Ocean
out.
2,
Well, that one's November. That one I already prepaid for before I had this epiphany. But I'm actually doing a series. Every game that I play through my backlog, I'm actually going to be not only doing a podcast episode, but I'm going to be doing a video review as well.
Nice.
And you may have seen the reviews, you may have heard the games countless times, but for me, it's my first approach. Like, I've owned Bravely Default 2 since day one it came out, and I am just now playing it. Like, my backlog is currently 300 some games. I'm going to whittle that away in
Nice.
2 lifetimes, I hope.
Hopefully.
So, but yeah, and then we're going to have to get you back on, Bill, for some more fun. Bill is a regular now. He's been on the show twice. He's basically Games with John and James family.
We did so I'll shout out, we had the great PS2 RPG debate. That was a good one. And then my favorite was we talked about the weird part of the Sonic fan base for almost 2 hours. That one is wild.
And you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen, because John, my co-host, touts himself as one of the most knowledgeable people on Sonic there is, like an end-all, be-all encyclopedia, and he got out-Sonic'd by Bill. I like to heckle him ever so slightly, and because he keeps going and getting more Sonic lore, I feel he's ready for a round 2 almost.
All right, Bill, you better study.
I'll just pull more shit out of the abyss that is the Sonic fandom.
Bill's just gonna start making up some stuff and like mix it in, but make it sound believable. Just to
The worst part is with Sonic, you're never sure. You're never sure.
Bill, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
So do you have like a link tree or like one kind of like mass like link area for all your stuff? Or
Oh, of course. So we're on Spotify, Apple, Google, all the major streaming networks. Games with John and James. TikTok and Instagram are where I'm most active. You can find us at Games with John and James. John has no H, so don't make that confusion. You might stumble onto something you don't like. I don't know. Haven't searched. Please don't find out and let me know it's horrifying.
proceeds to check the thumbnail I made and make sure I spelled it right. I did. Don't worry. Nice though. So I'll definitely include all your stuff in the description for the video. And no, this was cool. Like I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. Get different collectors on, and actually we'll probably have you back at some point. We'll keep talking shop.
Look, we're here to stay. We are OGs in this. We have seen the rise and fall of collecting. I'm here. I'm now part of your family officially because I've been on your show now.
Wow.
Nice.
We'll have to start hiding you in all the thumbnails. We'll just hide you in the corner.
Instead of Where's Waldo, it's Where's James.
Where's James? Bill, get on that.
My thumbnails are already busy enough, so this will be great.
Do that. Oh, okay, good. You gotta update the one for this one.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, it's already processed on my computer, but
Nope, make a new one. Start over.
Joke's on you.
Start over, Bill. Well, okay, that one doesn't count because it's like because it will be there. All right, all the future ones, Bill. That's your new job.
All right. Well, before this goes completely off the rails, guys.
What do you mean? It already was.
Once again, thank you for joining us on the Gaming Collecting Podcast. The Gaming Collecting Podcast can be found on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can find all of our links at linktree/thebarberwhogames. And if you want to join our Discord server, it is the GNC Podcast Network. You can find all of our updates on the show, and you can talk anime, gaming, or Alex posts a lot of curse shit, and it's a great time.
Yes.
But until next time, guys, we will see you all later.
Hasta
Don't
luego.
Oh. Oh.
Haha. Got it.
No. No. Don't forget.